Good morning, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First step, Senate bill would abolish death penalty in New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Mike Cronin.
What, these both support the immune system?
Too many choices? Well, along with digestive health, Florastor provides an extra layer of immune support.
Really?
Unlike many other probiotics, Florastor stimulates the production of IgA.
IgA?
Oh, IgA is a protein that promotes health and defense against infection.
All right, I'll try it.
Woo! See you later, ladies. Be biotic with Florastor.
In 2014 and 2016, repealing New Hampshire's death penalty failed by just one vote in the Senate. But this time, there appears to be enough votes in that body, with 13 senators sponsoring a bill to outlaw it.
People have come to realize that the death penalty is just a failed public policy. It doesn't work for law enforcement. It doesn't work for victims. It's expensive. Mistakes are made.
The legislation was introduced earlier this month. Representative Rennie Cushing has dealt with personal loss. His father and brother-in-law were murdered.
Filling another coffin doesn't bring anybody back. It just kind of increases the cycles of pain and violence.
Changing the law would not affect Michael Addison, New Hampshire's only death row inmate. He was convicted of murdering Manchester police officer Michael Briggs in 2006. Since the 1930s, Addison has been the only person sentenced to death in the state.
It's a very narrow death penalty. It isn't used very often, but it served as a deterrent for years.
State Senator Lou D'Alessandro has supported capital punishment since the 1970s.
You don't bring dead people back who are killed by someone, and that's another situation. Think of the family of Officer Briggs and the lasting effect it has on their family.
This bill will now go to a committee hearing before the Senate votes at a later date. It would also need approval from the House. Reporting live in Concord, Mike Cronin, WMUR News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. On her deathbed, VA doctor blows the whistle on mass vets care. Let's take a listen to the video from WCVB Boston.
And right now, federal investigators are looking into allegations of mismanagement, retaliation, and patient harm made under oath by one of the VA's top doctors just days before she died.
It's my final wish to complete this affidavit so that I can attempt to change systemic and dangerous patient care.
The words of Jerry Lund's wife, Dr. Sarah Kemble, live on in this 23-page affidavit, exposing what she calls dangerous practices at the VA's Central Western Mass healthcare system, impacting the health and lives of our veterans.
And many fell far short of the basic standards of medical care.
Dr. Kemble was hired as the chief of medicine for the region in 2014. Last December, just 5 days before she lost her battle with cancer, she testified about what she called systemic failure here to the VA's Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection.
She wanted to make sure that somehow, beyond her passing, the VA would be held accountable.
Kemble voiced concerns about the qualifications of leadership, substandard care, and delays in patient care harming veterans. She said the system that's supposed to help veterans access community-based care has broken down, and money that should have been used for health care was spent on paving and landscaping. There are accusations of retaliation and more. The Northampton Medical Center is the region's flagship facility. It's advertised as a 24/7 urgent care hospital, but according to the affidavit, it's failing in that mission. Dr. Kemble testified that there are no lab services, radiology, or appropriate psychiatric services available here on nights or weekends.
Jeff went in and said that he wanted to kill himself. He had a means to kill himself.
The system Dr. Kemble battled is the same system Kevin Lucy says failed his son Jeff, a Marine reservist haunted by the ghosts of the Iraq War. In 2004, Jeff's family brought him to the Northampton VA when he was in crisis. No psychiatrist was at the hospital or consulted, and Jeff was never admitted. The 23-year-old hanged himself in the basement of their home weeks later.
He wrote in a pad that it's 4:35 and I'm completing my death.
In the wake of Jeff's death, the VA ordered that during off-duty hours, a psychiatrist always be consulted on mental health cases. But Dr. Kemble says that still wasn't happening more than a decade later.
How disheartening is that?
It's totally disheartening. It's as if we were betrayed.
The thing that really crushed her was that she did everything she could to try to fix systemic problems and was defeated and demoralized and retaliated against.
Lawyer Lisa Broder McGann was one of a handful of people at Dr. Kemble's bedside during her testimony.
When you're dying and you spend the last weeks of your life doing something to help other people, you know it's real, you know it's truthful, and you know it's important.
The commitment to veterans, her patients, was more important than having a few extra hours or days left in her life.
And this investigation is in its early stages. A VA spokesperson for Central and Western Mass tells us they're cooperating fully. At 7, we'll take a look at the number of VA whistleblower reports and hear what the regional director has to say. Kathy Curran, 5 Investigates.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Parents charged with murder and death of 10-year-old girl. Let's take a listen to the video from WMTW News 8 Maine.
Oh, you don't look so hot. Rough night? Ugh. Oh, well, actually that's the problem. You're on antibiotics. Antibiotics can kill the good bacteria as well as the bad, and that's bad news for your tummy, unless you use Florastor. Unlike many other probiotics, it's naturally resistant to antibiotics and protects the good bacteria in your body. So, take some Florastor. Doctors, well, my orders. Be biotic, and drink plenty of fluids.
State police are investigating the death of a 10-year-old girl in the town of Stockton Springs. Officials say an ambulance was called to a residence at the Village at Stockton Harbor condominiums yesterday afternoon just before 3 o'clock. An autopsy is being done today on the girl's body. Police are not classifying the death until they receive the results. No other information is being released.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Apple is launching medical clinics for its employees. Apple is launching a group of health clinics called AC Wellness for its own employees and their family this spring, according to several sources familiar with the company's plans. Governors divided on path forward on school safety. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News.
We have a program called the Extreme Risk Protection Order System that has been supremely effective in allowing family members that realize there's a risk to have them separated from their firearm. It involves a judicial decision, it involves a hearing, and it has saved lives, I'm sure, in the state of Washington. And I would commend it to you for national attention, because it makes sure that when you have an uncle that you have concern about depression, it allows law enforcement to separate your uncle and depressed uncle from his firearm. Right. If you have somebody in your family that might have some violent tendencies, after a hearing, an ex parte or a potential ex parte order, you get an order to actually allow law enforcement to remove them. It's been in operation for a year. It's been extremely successful. I would commend it to you. Second issue. Now, I know that you have suggested arming our teachers. And
not your teachers. Arming a small portion that are very gun adept, that truly know how to handle. Because I do feel, Governor, it's very important that gun-free zones, you have a gun-free zone, it's like an invitation for these very sick people to go there. I do think that there has to be some form of major retaliation if they're able to enter a school. And if that happens, you're not going to have any problems anymore, because they're never going to the school. You're never going to have a problem. So it would just be a very small group of people that are very gun adept. Anyway, go ahead, Governor.
If I may respond to that, let me just suggest whatever percentage it is. I heard at one time you might have suggested 20%. Whatever percentage it is, speaking as a grandfather, speaking as a governor of the state of Washington, I have listened to the people who would be affected by that. I've listened to the biology teachers, and they don't want to do that at any percentage. I've listened to the first grade teachers that don't want to be pistol packing first grade teachers. I've listened to law enforcement who have said they don't want to have to train teachers as law enforcement agencies, which takes about 6 months. Now, I just think this is a circumstance where we need to listen, that educators should educate, and they should not be foisted upon this responsibility of packing heat in first grade classes. Now, I understand you have suggested this, and we suggest things, and sometimes then we listen to people about it. Maybe they don't look so good a little later. So I just suggest we need a little less tweeting here, a little more listening, and let's just take that off the table and move forward.
All right, thank you very much. You know, we have a number of states right now that do that.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that did it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. Goodbye, everyone.